And then in Maslow's books and his papers, you see something else come out, another thing that made an impression on him. They saw it a transfer. Maslow calls it a giveaway. But the way he describes it, he says, you know, this man came with all of these goods, as much goods as he could collect in a year's time. All of these things put together from you know, the richest things he could get to very lowly things, I think he said, bottles of Coca-Cola or something. And with a lordly gesture, right? This is Maslow's almost word for word. He made grand speeches about himself, you know, what a good guy he is, how he's done for the community and all of this. And then he gave away all of these possessions to the, you know, to the widows and the poor. He left the Sundance, this man, with just the shirt on his back. This is what Maslow was perceiving. But we can make some assumptions what he actually saw was a transfer. And this made a big impression on him because he thought, if I was to put together all the things I can amass in a year, all of my possessions, and go out in the public, even at a holiday celebration or whatever, and make a big announcement about what a great guy I am and give it all away, what's the benefit to me, right? So this kind of stumped him. And later on, in his 6 weeks there, he returned to this. It made a big impression on him. What's the benefit? What's the motivation for someone to give away all of their things? And then the Sundance was over. These were the two big things that they wrote about the Sundance. Then Maslow started off with his social personality inventory, right? And as Jane tells it, she advised him and Lucien, because they were chums, she told them, we need to go and speak with the elders. Right? You go talk to the elders because they're the ones that know things. Right? And I'll go talk with the elder women, and why don't you guys go talk with the elder men? But Maslow would have none of it. He was interested in deviance. And by deviance, included in that category was the teenagers. Jane says, teenagers, you can't get much lower than that. He started going around the community, and Lucien as well, trying to administer the social personality inventory. And of course, they were stonewalled when they come, even at the first set of questions, you know, do you feel like you're better than so-and-so? You know, who's the biggest liar in your community? Who's the biggest, you know, this and that? People have no idea how to address these questions or why they were even being asked. And they got stonewalled. And word got back to the elders pretty quick. This is what these guys are asking us about. And they're asking our kids. And we have some correspondence. Jane sent me everything that she had left in her house, which included, about this time, which included all of her and Lucien's personal correspondence with their families. She ended up marrying Lucien. I included all their personal, of course, letters they sent back and forth that summer. And in there was a letter from Lucien to his parents that we're almost getting kicked off of the reserve today. They sent word through our interpreter that the elders were very upset at the questions we were asking. I had come here intending to study deviance. Now I'm going to have to restrict my studies to deviance of certain kinds. The heat was on them, and it got so strong that Lucien and Jane pulled away from Abraham Maslow. They were camped out all together, and Jane and Lucien decided, well, we better move away from this guy because we're going to get kicked out of this community if we keep associating with him. And so they shifted their base camp elsewhere, left Maslow alone. Maslow had become the deviant. But he went about asking his questions, just like he wanted to do. He with all the threats that the interpreter had carried, it didn't sway him. He continued his work. These were a couple of the young ladies he was interviewing. This came out of his unpublished paper. One of the things that at the conclusion of the study, well, he realized, and it's in his paper, that social personality inventory was a basis for measuring the ego security of a Western, of a person of Western culture. It didn't work at Siksika, and he readily admitted this didn't work. My theory about this being a universal was bunk. Here he saw a community where there wasn't that competition, where people weren't ready to talk bad about each other. He didn't see aggression. He said he saw absolutely zero cases where that he would consider like bad parenting. And what he came out with, and we don't know how he came up with these statistics. I figure it's intuitive, but what he said was 80 to 90% of the population at Siksika had the quality of self-esteem. The only, what he would think, the top 5% in his society had. What is he talking about here? Self-actualization. He saw in Siksika a model for what would later be called self-actualization, and the majority of the population was in this mode, was in this psychological mode. And so he wondered, why is this? Why this big difference between their society and our society? He started looking for reasons. One of the things he said was, Siksika, the people of Siksika have respect for their children, a kind of respect that we don't have. And if you read his books and his papers, you'll see examples that he's pulled from Siksika, his published works. In there he said, I was at this home, and it was a one-room cabin. I was visiting this family, and there was a young boy, about 3 or 4 years old. He was trying to get the door open, and he couldn't open it. And he said, I became, really frustrated because my first inclination was jump up and open the door for him. But nobody else seemed to be paying any attention to this as the child was struggling with this door, until eventually he got it open himself. Then everybody praised him. They had noticed all along, but they hadn't made any time. They let him do his own learning, and they had confidence he could do it. Maslow realized, in my society, the inclination is to assume that the child doesn't have what it takes to open the door, and to just do it for them, to take that responsibility for them. Siksika has more respect for their kids. He said there was another boy, Unipo, his favorite child, a child that has transfers. He had a bundle. And a man came and asked the 10-year-old boy if he could have the bundle transferred. And the boy told him, come back in 4 days, and I'll have an answer. The man left. And the man left, that boy left as well. He went out into the gulu, and he didn't come home for 4 days. He went out there to think this over. He slept out there, and he stayed out there alone, 10-year-old boy. And this, was shocking to Maslow, because he didn't have to ask his parents' permission, and his parents had no problem with it. And he went out and he made this rather large decision on his own, and came back and he told that man, yes, I'll transfer.